I'm Rosalie Michaels, and welcome to the Pain Channel. Now, this week, we're going to take a glimpse into the lives of modern-day gladiators. We wanted to understand more about the mixed martial arts phenomenon that is sweeping the nation, so we went directly to the source. After all, who knows pain better than somebody who fights for a living, right? Now, here's a look at one of the premier MMA gyms in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the MMA Lab. The MMA Lab is open to athletes of all skill levels, but they are also one of the top gyms in the nation for professional fighters as well. It's the training ground for an elite fight team, which includes undefeated fighters, experienced veterans, and even an Ultimate Fighter winner.
So we're talking today about mixed martial arts, and it's fairly obvious if you know anything about MMA that injuries are fairly inevitable. The question might be asked, so what type of preventative measures can be taken for those warriors that decide to be involved in mixed martial arts? Well, simply put, I'd say probably two. Number one, don't get in the cage, and number two, try not to get hit. But aside from that, there are some things clearly that these athletes can do to prevent injuries. And if you, again, have seen anything or know anything about MMA, you'll realize very quickly that these are some highly conditioned elite athletes. They have a regimen that includes nutrition and often physical therapy, certainly strength training and flexibility training. And it's those last two that are crucial in an issue of preventative health and prevention of injury. Flexibility is key, and if you've ever seen some of the events before or after, you'll often notice that a lot of these athletes have a pretty regimented stretch routine and flexibility routine that keeps them moving. And of course, it's all about good rest and recovery before a fight and after a fight. But preventative measures for elite athletes are great, but they're also very, very helpful for you at home, those weekend warriors.
MMA, it's hard. I mean, especially if you have a fight come up, you got to nurse the injury, you got to get better. I mean, and again, you're dealing with all different disciplines. You're up, you're down, the guy's on top of you, you're on top of him, and it's constantly transitioning from one to another.
If you get your arm broken, your leg broken, it can hurt a lot. Chokes usually aren't so painful, but they put you to sleep pretty quick.
You know, practice on things that you wouldn't think of, you know, hiding pain or hiding, masking something. You know, if somebody caught you something good, you can't be too emotional about it. You can't be too timid about it. You gotta act like nothing happened.
There is little injuries sometimes that I would baby back in the day, to which is now that I really been there. You know, I think you become not immune, but you actually, some injuries, I'm more susceptible to more injuries than I would back in the day.
You're gonna deal with a lot of injuries when you come to this game. So a lot of it's recognizing it, knowing once you've gotten injured, you know, knowing if you can continue training or if you're just doing your body more harm.
At the time while I'm feeling the pain, I don't want to compete. I don't want to do nothing. I just struggle with the pain. Well, my pain doctors, they help out with the medications and stuff like that, but I don't like taking the Percocets. I don't like taking the Vicodins. It changes, it alters the way you feel.
I was fighting in the K1 in 2003. You fight 3 times in one night. In the second round of the tournament, in the second fight, I was fighting Dewey Cooper. So on the slick, whatever it may be, Budweiser, I slipped and tore my knee. I never did anything like that, so I thought it was like my knee adjusted. I said, wow, that was like weird. It was like a back adjustment. So I got out there and I started fighting again and went throw a kick, down. I was like, weird. So I went on, I fought Dewey, I fought second and the third round. So I advanced to the final round against Mike McDonald. And the adrenaline was pumping, kept doing it, and kept fighting. So I fought another 3 rounds. So I fought a total of 5 rounds on a torn ACL. So come at the end of the 3rd round, they deliberated over the scores. I was a half point ahead, they had to be a full point. So it took about 10 minutes. They kept going back and forth with the score. My knee just went, swelled up. The doctor looked, said, it's over. They called it off because the adrenaline stopped and everything was over, and they're deliberating. And they said, hey, there's another day to fight.
My first loss was against Evan Dunham, and it was actually pretty eventful because he had him in a submission in the third round. You know, it was a coin toss on the fight. It came down to he grabbed a submission, and it was stretching pretty bad. But in my deep self, I was like, wait, I can't be losing. I had still time to think, and then all of a sudden my arm snapped, and then I was forced to tap. But on my way to the hospital on the ambulance to check my arm out, you know, it was a little sign of relief, you know. You're always scared to get that first loss. But then after that, you know, you have to bounce right back out.
You always have bruises. I mean, it's either a little black eye or a little soreness. I mean, if it's not like an injury, it's fatigue, it's your muscles are sore, it's always something. I mean, it may not be like an actual injury, but you're always kind of beat up a little bit.
If you're not strong mentally, you can't fight through pain. And that's just period. Some people, when they feel pain, it turns them off. You know, they're not able to fight through that mental barrier. I think having to fight through mental pain is 95, 100% mental. It's not really the pain, it's your willpower behind it that's going to get you there.
Some people have got a gift for it, and I think some people just don't have it. There's no way, they just can't handle it, you know, maybe at least not physical pain. I mean, where there's all types of pain, and some people are meant different for others, but for the sport that we have, I think you got to have a little something. You got to be born with a little bit of something.
It's heartbreaking when they get injured and they're not able to either take the fight or fight up to their potential. It's devastating. So you just got to let them know tomorrow's another day. You know, it's going to be better. We got to get it fixed. Let's go forward. You got to be positive in your outlook. I say, okay, this is what we do. Go see the doc tomorrow. This, and this. We figure it out, and then this is our plan to get you back to where you need to be.
There's a lot of different exercises we do. We're very functional as far as sport-specific exercises that we do. So if they're not doing those type of exercises and being consistent, there's a higher rate, the injury increases a lot. So if they're staying in there and they're being consistent on their weight training programs and meeting with me for all their strength training before their fights come, we can pretty much manage their whole camp injury-free.
My son, he's got a thyroid problem, so the exercise really helps him. They want him to do something at least an hour a day, so he gets that in the martial arts.
The thing that I think a lot of elite fighters have in common is that they're great guys. They're just normal folks. They're not crazies. The guys that run around with mohawks and tap-out shirts acting like fools are not usually the good fighters. You know, they're just nice people. They're, you know, as good as you can get, salt of the earth, but they like to fight. It's what they've chosen to be great at.
Everybody expects fighters to be, you know, I guess meatheads, kind of, I guess, in a sense, or they're always wanted aggressive, or they're looking for confrontation. I don't let anybody push me around, but there's plenty of people, I don't need to be a fighter to not want to get pushed around. There's plenty of people who don't know anything about fighting, but won't let you push them around. So I think in some sense, you know, like you just be in a different scenario, you know, we're out with some friends and, you know, a little conflict happens. Everybody kind of almost looks like to you to be the ambassador for, how are we going to, you know. And I'm like, listen, I don't care for this. Unless I'm getting paid, I don't, you know. If you're a plumber, you don't fix somebody else's pipes for free. You don't, you know. If you're a painter, you're not going to paint a picture for free. You know, it's the same thing here. I don't want to fight. I don't want to be in even a verbal argument with anybody unless I'm getting paid for it. I don't want confrontation. I deal with that every day.
If you want to start fighting, you need to go train at a good place, people that you trust, and put a good 3-5 years in. If you've never done anything before, 5 years is about a minimum base, because you have athletes that are basically professionals, amateur wrestlers, Olympic level guys that have dedicated their lives to sports and conditioning and are mentally as tough as you can get, and they're coming into MMA. So how are you going to match that? You know, it's going to be a long time. So if you're interested in fighting, you know, and you're in high school, wrestle. Go to college and wrestle, you know. And if you're out of high school, go to a place that teaches those kind of things and train for a long time, and then start thinking about fighting. Really learn the craft before you stick yourself in the ring.
Experience the Pain Center of Arizona and get back into life. Call 1-888-PAIN-CENTER.
At the head of that elite fight team is Benson Henderson, a former WEC lightweight champion who will be making his UFC debut on April 30th. Now, nobody fights through pain like Ben Henderson. So we wanted to find out how he manages to compete with injuries while keeping focused. Here's Ben Smooth Henderson on how to stay smooth in the face of adversity.
Well, I've started here seriously when I moved down here to Arizona. I came down with John Crouch. We moved down from Denver. I got my shot in the WC here at the MMA lab. Had a pretty successful and whatnot. Eventually, gradually, ended up getting a title shot in the WC. I held the title for a little while, and now I fight in the UFC. I've never really been too seriously injured. Never had a black eye, never had a bloody nose. For most of my fights, I kind of like to avoid getting hit in the face as much as possible. That Donald Cerrone fight was the last 15 seconds of the fight. He landed an up kick right in my eyeball. I ended up having a microscopic myopic tear. I went to go see my eye doctor, Dr. Petlin, over in Scottsdale. He's the one who performed, I had PRK, laser eye surgery performed on both my eyes. The recovery was just time healing. I couldn't jump rope, I couldn't jog, I could have no jarring of my eye. He said because the little tear, if I jarred it at all anymore, it could be like really bad. I just sat on my couch and kind of just zoned out, read a little bit, watched TV. I did come to the gym, but I would just sit around. I didn't jump rope, I couldn't mess around with any of the students. I couldn't do anything. So it was fine though, like after like a week of doing that. I get all antsy and like if I don't work out for like 2 or 3 days, I start getting kind of antsy. But it was just a week off. I didn't really do a whole lot, which was, not the worst recovery. Not all the time, but sometimes it can be mind over matter. And I know there's a lot of painful stuff out there, a lot of different situations, and as far as dealing with your body and whatnot. But I don't know, just find a good doctor and a little bit of mind over matter. You get mentally tough. The quicker you recover is based on your cardio. So if you have a guy who has really, really good cardio, like Frankie Edgar, and he gets dropped like he did against Gray Maynard in his fight, he's gonna be able to bounce back up and recover. The second round, you looked at him and he was fresh, good to go, like eyes clear, not cloudy at all. And that's a testament to his cardio and him being able to bounce back. The cardio aspect, what takes it to another level, is not anything special. It's not like an exercise no one's ever seen before. There's really no secrets, pretty much in MMA training and cardio training. There's not any real secrets. It's just going at a higher intensity. It's just going a little bit harder, going a little bit longer than the regular guy, than the fighter who I'm facing. I just try to have my cardio kick it up to the next level. Everybody can run a mile, some people run it in 17 minutes, some people can run it in 8 minutes or whatever. I try to run my mile as fast as I can, as hard as I can, and just really up the cardio by doing that. And that's what it is here. The intensity level, I just try and keep it at a little bit higher. And some guys need to be motivated by talking trash. Some guys are motivated just for money, lifestyle. They want a nice car, a nice house. Some guys are motivated, like by the girls, by the lifestyle, the going out and partying or whatnot. I fight, I train, I do all this just because I want to be the best, plain and simple. I want to be the best there is that ever done it. And that's all I really need. I'm not too much for, like, money's awesome. I'm glad I can, have a okay lifestyle and pay some bills, help my mom out and stuff like that. But I don't fight for money. I don't fight for glory or fame or none of that. Like, whatever. We can go fight behind 7-Eleven and see who's better, me or Mark Bocek. I'm down for that. I just want to be the best there is. That's my only motivation.
So now let's talk for a second about the eye injury that Ben Henderson suffered. And most of you that follow MMA know that it was a pretty devastating injury. The question might be, so when injury occurs, what are the options for an athlete or even for someone at home? Unfortunately for Ben, an eye injury is one of those things that it's real difficult to have treatment. Think of it, for those of you at home, think of it like a cracked rib or an injury to a rib. There's not a cast that we can put in place, not even an ACE wrap. It really is a lot about rest and recovery. And for an elite athlete and someone on the go, That can be the most difficult thing of all. Simply put, when there is injury to any part of your body, joint, muscle, ligament, or an injury like Ben suffered of the eye, make sure you get that rest and recovery before getting fully active again.
What an unbelievable group of athletes. But, watch out, guys, because I'm training hard back here at the studio, and, it's just a matter of time before I'm coming after you. That means you, Ben. That's right. Please don't hurt me. As for you, thanks for watching this week's show, and make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We've got a lot of exciting programs lined up for the near future, and I'd hate to have you miss out. Well, until then, stay healthy, my friends. I'm Rosalie Michaels, and I'll see you next Wednesday at 3 p.m. on the Pain Channel.